for all for tuning in live, listening to replay. We're actually doing an interview today with David from DKS. What is it? DKS Tax Accountants, correct?
Yes, indeed. DKS Tax and Consulting,
Yes.
blockchain accountants.
Yes, blockchain accountants. And so we actually got a chance to run into David at a crypto conference here a little while back, and just someone that obviously has the background, the education to help you with your taxes if you're in this space. We think that this is just imperative to even have a conversation in space. If you're gonna talk about, crypto, we should be talking about that. We should be talking about that accounting as well. So, definitely excited about doing this episode today uh, with you all, and look forward to doing it with David. David, definitely appreciate you for joining us, taking out some time here. We definitely have some questions we want to bring to you all. But David, just starting out and your experience in the crypto environment with accounting, talking about your experience, just what made you want to get specifically in the crypto space with accounting and going that route?
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. It was really nice running into you at the Miami Crypto Experience here recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a pleasure to be here. So, yeah, my crypto journey started when I was in college and someone tried to pay me in Bitcoin. So, I was a tutor when I was in college and I was tutoring a guy in mathematics. I was helping him with some calculus and he offered to pay me in Bitcoin. And at the time, that was literally the first time I had ever heard the word, 2015.
Okay.
And I said, actually, I think I'll hang on to the cash. So he paid me in cash, and I made the worst investment decision I'd ever made in my life. It was about 2 months later when I realized what I had done. And ever since then, I've been learning more and more about the space. It was in 2020, I was working at RSM. RSM is the fifth largest accounting firm in the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's a battle for fourth and fifth at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went to the University of Oregon, graduated, got my degree in accountancy, and was had worked at numerous firms. I started off my career at DiLorenzo and Co. in Portland, Oregon, serving closely held corporations and high net worth individuals. Moved from there. I got tired of the cold weather in Oregon. Moved to Florida, joined RSM, and was on their digital innovation team. Middle of 2020, we were all working at home, and I wanted to serve digital asset folks. And so I branched off on my own, started DKS Tax and Consulting, and it's been a ride ever since. We watched Bitcoin go to $65,000 back and up again. And so, yeah, serving folks in the space, and it's been an excellent journey. My clients are awesome.
Let's just jump into it. What is an ideal client for you? Like, let's just say people are listening to this episode. Everybody has a different barrier of entry. Um, could you talk about what? Could you talk about that? Could you talk about possibly what your ideal client is and things of that nature?
So
Oh
that's a
wow.
great question. There's kind of like a 4 or 5 segmented range in the crypto industry right now. So there's huge organizations, right? Coinbases of the world, hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Totally beyond the scope of what we do. Then there's kind of another layer, about $50 million to $100 million that are served by, large organizations. Then there's folks who are, they've just got a Coinbase account, just doing Binance, they're just kind of getting started. Probably one of the crypto tax calculators can help them, that if they're just getting into it. But then there's people who've had some success already, right? And they've got, a little bit to work with. They're trying to figure out what's the next step. They're excited, looking forward towards the future. And they're in probably that, $500,000 to up to maybe $50 million range. And they're excited about the future. So that's my favorite thing is that my clients are really forward looking, excited about what's up, what's coming next. We spend most of our time strategizing about what's going to be coming because the industry is unfolding rapidly. And kind of in our pre-talk, we were discussing NFTs and how that is going to affect not only the art space but the technology behind that, and yeah, the different ways that people are using that technology too as well.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, I want you to actually reintroduce yourself. As quite a few people said they couldn't hear. So I do want you to share, your education, where you went to school, and just that before that bit for a second again, if you could, please.
Yeah, so I'll hit the high points and give you the resume. So I went to the University of Oregon. I graduated from the University of Oregon, and then I started my career at DiLorenzo and Co. In Portland, Oregon. I graduated with a majors in accountancy, major in accountancy and a major in finance. So I double majored. Uh, then started at DiLorenzo and Co. serving high net worth individuals there. Moved from there. I got tired of the cold weather. Left there. Went to Gregory Shar and Stewart CPAs located in St. Petersburg, Florida. They were part of the RSM Alliance. They were then purchased by RSM. I was on RSM's digital innovation team for about a year and a half there. Then I started DKS Tax and Consulting. In addition to my formal education, I'm also a CPA, so
Hmm.
leave that part out. But I did have the CPA license, and the that is quite a journey to get that. So in addition to my formal education, I've also got three different certifications from the Global Blockchain Business Council as a smart contract developer, as a blockchain expert, and as a cryptocurrency expert. Blockchain and cryptocurrencies are two different things. It's kind of a key point there as well.
Definitely.
Uh, and I've also have a Harvard professional certificate in fintech. So I've really taken the time to dive into the space and really, understand what's happening, because what we're watching and what we're experiencing is a revolution that is equivalent to what we experienced at the onset of the internet age, right? And when we think about, 1992, when the internet was first coming out, there were a lot of people who were scared of it and who, don't talk to people on the internet. It's just some stranger, right? Now I think that that's the number one selling tool: talk to a stranger on the internet, right?
Right.
So I am, it's a pleasure to be kind of on the cutting edge and see what people are doing, exciting projects every single day. So yeah, it's a great time.
Great. Definitely. I appreciate that. So let's just start with our first question. What does a competent accounting service look like in the crypto space?
That's a great question, because there's not many accountants, not many CPAs who truly understand what they need to be looking for. Most CPAs, if they knew, they could do it, right? They just haven't taken the time to learn about it. And the best thing you can do is someone who knows the questions to ask. Do they know what a MetaMask is? If you don't know what something is, there's no way you can report it. And the job of the CPA in the practice of tax preparation is to properly report the economic situation of their client. Okay. And if you don't even know what to ask for, then you're not going to be able to properly report all the information. So when you talk to a CPA or a tax professional and you start asking them questions about digital assets, see if they're asking you good questions, right? If they ask you good questions, then they probably have got a leg up and they know what to look for. Because a lot of what we do is looking for, it's inquiry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we inquire so that we can make sure that we've covered all the bases. It's not your job to know every, oddly enough, it's really not your job to know every piece of what your accounting life looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job. That's what you pay me for, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're supposed to be able to help and um, create pathways to gather that information so that way we can be properly reported. And if your CPA or your tax professional can ask good questions, then that's what they need to be doing. And that shows that they've probably been educating themselves if they can ask good questions.
Right. Okay. Okay. So what does reporting look like for crypto? Just, maybe somebody's in, they maybe had 25, $50,000 to kick around. What does reporting look like if they just double their money? Let's just say they double their money. What does reporting look like in crypto right now for that?
So I'll kind of approach that question from two different ways. I'll approach it from a high level,
Okay.
and then like an actual practical how do you do it level, right? Some people like to see the hands-on piece. Uh, from a high level, crypto is traded or reported just like stocks. When you trade in or out of a crypto, you need to report your basis and your proceeds. If I buy Ethereum and it's $4,000, I hang on to it for 2 months, it goes up to $4,500. My gain is $500. I have to pay tax on $500. Okay. It's not more complicated than that. The complexity arises in that maybe when you left Ethereum, you went into another token instead of back into cash. Prior, when you sold your stock, generally you went back into cash. So you have a clean kind of break there. The complexity, right, in crypto is that when you sold that Ethereum into the next token that you purchased, that is now your basis in the next token, that
Hmm.
4,500.
Right.
Okay. And so it's it's something that you've got to be aware of. You just have to know kind of what to look for, what to track. And people are creatures of habit. They trade in patterns, right? And so there's a whole field of economics about exploring patterns in economics. And so, yeah, we kind of dive into those patterns. So from a high level, report your basis, report your proceeds, pay tax on the difference. Very simple, right?
Hmm.
In practice, it can be a little bit more difficult, right? So you've got to get some tools. If you've got a high frequency trader, somebody who's trading daily, right? Um, then you're going to need to have some tools and some software to make that happen. There does not exist a software I know of where you can take a complex digital asset portfolio, input the information, press go, and it will come out perfect. I do not know of one. All of them do a really good job with simple portfolios. If you've got just Coinbase or something, maybe just Coinbase, just Binance, like a really straightforward stuff. Once you get too kind of far out to the edges of crypto and kind of exotic exchanges and tokens, they get a little bit less reliable, right? And that's why the phrase I use is a little bit of finesse at the end, because you've got to incorporate both the intent of the taxpayer, and there could be other things that are happening in the sphere of the economic situation of the individual or business that need to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to have someone that can actually that has experience possibly with these with the reporting for previous years. And so many people are just, it makes you wonder, like, are people either afraid of reporting or are they afraid of taxes?
They're
Because go ahead.
both.
What's your opinion about that?
Both. They
Okay.
a lot of people don't want to pay taxes. I mean, I'm sure this is not a surprise.
Right.
Right?
Right.
People don't like paying taxes. So there are people who are willfully ignorant. They say, "Oh, I didn't know that this." That. Well, I think people are coming around to the idea that you do have to pay taxes on your crypto, um, and it is an important point that is sometimes overlooked. That looking backwards at the prior years can be important. If you kind of dabbled in crypto a little bit in a few years, and now you've had some real success, maybe you want to go back and make sure that you covered all your bases, right? Because that is the way of the IRS. That is their common technique. Once you've got something worth getting, then they want to find a way in. And the way in could be an old tax bill, and then they've got their clutches.
Right.
So we work pretty hard to make sure that clients have all their bases covered from a reporting standpoint and a support standpoint. So a large part of what we do is in reality is CYA, right? We make sure that all the bases are covered, so that way you have a shield. If the IRS comes asking, here's the documents. This is what we use to come to these conclusions. And so that support can take you a long way, because if they come first, then you have to prove them wrong. But if you report proactively, they have to prove you wrong.
Great point. I think that is so, quintessential when people think they get in business and they think they have these reporting delay periods, and it's like, nah, you don't have any of that. You've heard misinformation from somebody that's not an entrepreneur, because, you should take pride in actually, filing as an entrepreneur. It's a great badge of honor to see the numbers, the revenue that you put up, whether it is gross or net, you still are able to show what you've done with your life and some type of monetary type of, equivalent, so I think that that's important.
Yeah, it's excellent to see people have success. I have great clients, and one of the great things I see all the time is literally people's lives being changed in the digital asset space. Um, it doesn't take much, right?
Hmm.
And you see stories of people who, I worked at Disney last year, and this year I'm a multimillionaire because they chose wisely and they took a risk. So Yeah, most people enjoy seeing the fruits of their labor, even though they've got to pay tax. They don't. I don't. Nobody likes that part, but
Right. Well, what does your ideal client look like as far as net income
that's a good question.
or
But I'm
net
gonna,
worth? You could do even net worth, in
yeah,
crypto, because the crypto is supposed to be value. So that could be a form of net worth. So what would be ideal?
I'm really about relationships, right? There's smart people, and it might not be your crypto might not be producing you a lot of income at the moment, right?
Hmm.
But it's really about relationships because we're looking forward to a whole industry opening up. It, it feels like we're a long ways into the industry because Bitcoin is 65, 60,000, 50 something $1,000, right?
Hmm.
But from a technological standpoint and an infrastructure standpoint, we're so early,
Yeah.
so early. So a company that's might not be wildly successful right now, or an individual might not be wildly successful right now, I'm willing to kind of talk about it because there's projects that are going to be successful in the future. Um, of course, people work for a living and everything, but yeah, we definitely have a wide range of clients.
Okay. So, how does cross-border accounting for the space come into play when it comes to residential or commercial, uh, excuse me, resident or commercial, like, what do you say, people's residence, if, depending on where they are,
Mhm.
how does that cross-border accounting affect, when you're buying a digital asset, is it best to buy in your jurisdiction? Are there more favorable jurisdictions? Could you talk about, think about if you're not buying an asset in your country, quote unquote, um, just reporting that, like, people, they may not want to go into another jurisdiction and have, some company in another jurisdiction because it may cause more of a greater tax liability, or do they stay in their current jurisdiction? I mean, even at the event we were at, we read into Canadians that, set up companies in the United States and things like that. So that's the reason why I'm asking. Like, these Canadians were setting up companies in the United States. So because they were trying to look, whether it was limited liability or have access to buy specific coins because of their company could purchase it in the States as opposed to Canada. But could you talk about that from an accounting perspective? How would you talk to someone that's coming from a Canada? Because we do have people that listen here from cross-border environments. Whether it's New Zealand, whether it's Canada, whether it's UK. We do have quite a few people that listen from other jurisdictions that actually are involved in this space. So, what does the cross-border accounting look like, and how would you be able to aid in that?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. So we work with folks from all over the world. Accounting is accounting internationally. So if we look from a gap perspective, right?
Okay. Yep.
Gap and IFRS.
Mhm.
So there's small differences between gap and IFRS. Well, depending on who you ask, they're either small or significant.
Right.
But there are differences. Those are reporting standards when you're public, right? From a private company perspective, we're going to follow the same rules that have been in place since the beginning of time. Now we do see, excuse me, we do see a lot of companies looking for jurisdictions that have asset protection statutes, right? So we see people trying to domicile in like St. Kitts and Nevis. We see people going overseas getting golden passports. So the golden passport allows you citizenship in another country by
Investment.
investing,
Mhm.
yeah, by investment. And people are finding success with that. People are changing their lives. They're having the ability to live the dreams that they've wanted, and they're finding ways to make that happen. Um, from our perspective, it's still just dollars and cents at the end of the day. So we what we do is track it, right? And wherever people are, we can make that happen for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, so many people don't understand that the accounting standards are, fairly uniform around the world if you're an English speaking country, as far as the reporting standards, in general. So that's definitely, good to know that, some people just aren't aware of, they have a little tentativeness about going into other markets and things of that nature. Um, what are some of the tax advantages in this space? So I haven't heard anybody ever really ask that question, but what are the tax advantages for being involved in this crypto blockchain environment? And even if you want to distinguish the two, in the difference of the tax advantages, if there are any.
Yeah. So from a I wouldn't say there's advantages just for being in the into blockchain, right? But once you've decided that you've got that you're running an enterprise, and I say decided running an enterprise because every business starts in the mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start doing handshakes and making deals, and then and then you start the company usually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it all starts in your mind. Once you're running an enterprise, then you can deduct all the related expenses with producing that income, right? Um, Sometimes people will say, well, oh yeah, so I want to start a crypto business and then I can buy a new truck, right? Well, no, you can't. But if you started a construction business and you wanted to buy a new truck, I wouldn't bat an eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you start a crypto business and you buy $10,000 worth of computers, that makes sense, right?
Right.
Um, so it's really just about finding ways to finding real ways to produce more income, and usually that costs money. Your gas fees are always going to be deductible, right? So any fees you pay are going to be expensed for the time being inside of the organization.
Right, we're not literally talking gas, ladies and gentlemen, either. We're actually
Oh,
talking gas fees related to crypto. So if anybody's new to the space and they're not familiar with the terminology, this is why you have to study because of what he just said. When people in this space are talking, they're going to say a term like that. You have to be aware that a gas fee, if you're not in this space, is not just that's not something he slipped up and said. It's actually a fee, and if he will care to elaborate on it, that's fair. But these are actual fees that happen based off of being in this space. So if you want to elaborate on it, that's perfect, perfectly fine there, David.
thank you for pausing me. So we do this all day, so it just kind of falls out. I just totally, yeah, do this all day.
Hmm.
So a gas fee is a transaction fee. Okay, it is a transaction fee paid on the Ethereum network. Most people have heard of Bitcoin. Most people have also heard of Ethereum. Ethereum is the number two digital asset in the world by market cap. Um, and one of the most widely used development platforms for altcoins. Okay,
Hmm.
altcoins are generally anything other than Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. I think most people don't think Ethereum is an altcoin, but we'll see. Um, so that was a great place to stop me. And there's another point I wanted to make that's even more fundamental than the concept of gas fees, right? So a gas fee is just a transaction fee, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, the difference between blockchain and crypto. Okay. Key distinction. A cryptocurrency is a digital representation of value. Okay.
Hmm.
A blockchain is a piece of technology. Okay. The best analogy I know is this: Facebook is to the internet as Bitcoin is to blockchain. Facebook runs on the internet, Bitcoin runs on the blockchain. There are all kinds of websites that can run on the internet. There are all kinds of websites all kinds of digital assets and other things that can be used by the blockchain. Okay. So the blockchain is the underlying technology of digital assets.
Hmm.
With that blockchain technology, you can do a wide range of different things. The easiest way to put it, the technical name of blockchain is distributed ledger technology, DLT.
Hmm.
And what that means in its most basic form is it is a ledger that everyone is keeping. Okay, so if we think about the concept of securities, generally we think of security, we have something of value, we take it, we put it in a box, and we make sure nobody can get inside of the box, right? We
Hmm.
got safes and vaults and all these things. The a concept of distributed ledger technology takes that idea and flips it on its head. We are making everything secure by letting everyone see it, because then if someone alters something, everyone knows. So that is at its base fundamental root what the concept of distributed ledger technology is about. It's more secure because if anybody cheats, everybody knows.
It's a great security platform. Right? Sounds like right there. If you want to catch a criminal, get them on the blockchain.
Very true, right? So that's the real innovation. So there's all kind of technical things that make that possible,
Hmm.
right? That are, a little bit beyond the scope of this discussion, but that's really the key there, right? And so with that powerful piece of technology, what can we write down or what can we put in our ledger that we would want to keep secure? Anything you can think of. So IBM has a blockchain project called TradeLens, and TradeLens is a blockchain project designed to track every shipping container in the world. That's their goal, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Such that every shipping container will have a RFID chip on it, right? And as it goes in or out of any port, right, there will be readers that will just read it and it will be automated. And the port will know where it's at. The person who sent it will know where it's at. The person receiving it will know where it's at. It will be updated on the manifest. It will be updated on the bill of lading. And every document electronically will be updated instantly to track that shipping container that arrived in Frankfurt.
Right.
And they've got the technology, they got the people, they got the money to make it happen. So people talk about cryptocurrencies because they're exciting, right? And there's a
Right.
lot of money to be made. But the blockchain allows for TradeLens. It allows for things so powerful that are going to revolutionize several industries. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that. It's definitely a disruptive technology in that respect. I mean, even right now with the supply chain issues that they have, to be able to track and have, that micro data is so essential, and to know that they're still very archaic with paper, and not having the most efficient and proficient, way of tracking things. I mean, even when they have these like swine flu outbreaks or things like that with like the food and stuff like that, like salmonella poison, things like that. Like when those things happen, blockchain, I'm sure, can go into the farming environment and literally, just revolutionize the the tracking ability to go to source point, and to create the most efficient form of tracking, even down to end consumer that actually bought that. I can see technology even getting to that point, from the actual producer to the actual consumer of the product, having that point chain line, which is just insane data. Honestly, it's just insane data. Um,
I forget the name of the firm, but there's at least two projects that are working on exactly what you're saying.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. It's such an easy technology if you have a decent idea that can solve a problem. The technology is just like you say. It's like putting a website on the internet. Anybody can put a website up to sell something. So there's a bunch of people on the internet all trying to sell the same thing. But the point is that the platform supports these people's ideas to sell what they're selling. So that's obviously good. How does taxes get reported on the 1040? Uh, and what tax forms should people be prepared for them to come to them in the mail from these exchanges and things of that nature?
Yeah, so it's probably going to be a blank on anything coming in the mail.
Okay.
One of the less than less than great things in the crypto space is customer service is kind of lacking, right? All these firms are so high tech, they try to have bots for everything, and so customer service is definitely something that a lot of the firms in the crypto space need to work on. But none of them want that liability. What we do is we take the raw data, right? Coinbase allows you to download a CSV report, and most of the others will allow you to download some type of report that then is aggregated in a software that we use. There's a number of different ones. There's a number of ones on the market that are good. All of them need finesse at the end, as we discussed. There is not one that you can just plug and play with a complex portfolio. If the portfolio is simple, yes. With a complex portfolio, I haven't seen it yet. Uh, so we're going to take that simple again, find the basis, find the proceeds, report the difference. pay the tax, deduct expenses. Yeah, it's pretty straight. From a, I mean, that's really high level, but once you know what to look for from a CPA's perspective, it's really straightforward.
And I think that's the most important part is, obviously cross pollination between other accountants knowing actually what it is. But I just think it's important to actually, like you say, be invested in the space education wise, from the accounting perspective so they can actually do it properly. Even hearing your 30,000 foot view and description of it, just even that little bit is enough sometimes to give a individual that is the investor, quote unquote, or is the trader, to say, okay, I know what I need my accountant to actually have a conversation with me about. Now I know what they need to know, so I can know that they're doing their job correctly as well, or they have an idea of what they're doing. So I'm pretty sure the audience for sure appreciates, even what you said there, whether it's simple, whether it's complex, the style of reporting, because it's just so essential we're big over here about the entrepreneurs, investors, to actually hire accountants and hire lawyers, but you have to know how to have a conversation with them. What do you specifically say to them to know if they know what they're talking about? How do anybody's going to market themselves as this, that, and the third, but how do you know that this person knows that? So we definitely appreciate any cursory information on the front end about learning it, because so many people are wanting to jump into space. They don't look at it as a business; it's a hobby. But in all actuality, it's finance. You can get your face ripped off.
Yeah, true story.
You don't want to risk your life savings on bad ideas and bad information. I mean, you might as well just leave it to the guy that's going to make 8% every year, for the rest of your life. I mean, we're not mad about 8%, but if you're going to just keep coming
Right.
back with negative returns, I mean, obviously, and so, we can go there. But that's actually it's the next question. What are the worst case scenarios you've seen so far, actually?
I love this question because this is going to give me an opportunity to kind of talk about something I really want people to know about.
Okay.
Um, and so the first one is not reporting. The easiest one is not reporting. The IRS has a plan. Okay. They have what they call a virtual currency enforcement program. All right. The virtual currency enforcement program is designed to track and find people who have not reported their gains in digital assets. Okay.
Mm.
They've already got the letters ready. All they got to do is get your name, your address, and put it in the system. How are they going to get your name and address? Coinbase is going to tell them. Okay, so that's the first thing. The other thing is that in the new infrastructure bill that's been going through, the IRS will have the power to look and to search your activity via your IP address. So your IP address is connected to everything your email touched, right? Your computer, your phone, all those devices we love. I probably got 10 of them in the room right now. Each one of those IP addresses will lead back to me, right?
Right.
And primarily because I'm not a hacker, I don't have a super sophisticated system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I got a good system, but it's not going to stop the government from figuring out who I am.
Right.
um, and then they'll send you a letter, right? So they'll send you a letter, and the letter they will have calculated how much they think you owe in crypto taxes. Now you got to prove them wrong. And that's what we want to avoid. We want them to say, okay, well, we think this. Well, I already reported this and I have support for my position. So where's your support? We can fight about that in court then. Right. So that's not reporting anything is the first thing. The second thing is the common horror story in crypto is losing your passphrase. Okay. So what does that mean? When you own the private keys to your wallet, right now, the private key is if you have like a hardware wallet or some other wallet that's holding digital assets where you are the sole owner. There is nobody else to help you. If you lose the password, it's lost. There's no coming back. Just cancel Christmas go home, sit in the dark, and cry.
So hold
That's
on,
what.
hold on. Let me pause you there. So you're telling me if I had if I had a Bitcoin, right, and it was on this wallet that you just mentioned, the private key wallet, and I had the Bitcoin on there, and I lost the code. So if I had, more than one on there, but and it went to 50 or 60 or whatever, if I lost the code, the key that you're talking about, that means I lost the coin, so I don't have that money anymore.
Correct.
Right. Exactly. That's all I needed to hear somebody say. Because I hear a lot of people, and I know people pretty sure are losing that because they picked it up and they put it down, and now they can't get the code because they do have these verification processes that are almost tied to your device that is hard as heck if you don't have that device anymore. All it is so many different things. But please continue
So
with your point.
yeah, so when the verification devices, there's nobody to verify when you have a hardware offline wallet. There's nobody else to go save. There's nobody to verify anything. It's only you. Some people like that. I'm the type of person I like that a whole lot because I'm not going to lose my password to something that I already know is valuable.
Right.
It's the think of it literally. It might be more worth more than your house. If you lose I do feel bad for people who lose their passwords to significant digital asset portfolios, but it's kind of like you got to be more careful. You got to be more careful,
Yeah.
right?
Is
So
it
how
common? From your years of experience in the space so far, like, do you see it
yeah,
from a certain style of investor, lower end, newer end, more experienced? What do you see like when it comes to just something so simple as that?
people make mistakes. They move. It's just like you said, they pick it up, they put it down, a year goes by, they forgot where they placed it, they hid it from themselves, they hid it in a really good spot, they find it 2 years later after they lost the device. That I've heard all kinds of stories, and they hurt my heart sometimes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
they really do. They hurt my heart sometimes.
yeah.
Now, how do we fight that? So I'm not just going to tell you about a problem, I'm going to tell you about a solution also. Okay, the solution is a steel or titanium wallet. So listen to the sound. You hear that?
Yeah.
That is a piece of titanium, okay? And that piece of titanium is stamped into like a caveman stamped in stone, right? We've gone all the way back that far. So the password is stamped on this piece of titanium that is fireproof up to 3,000 degrees. So this cannot get burnt. It cannot, what's going to happen to it, right? I could lose it still. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what if I lose it? So you really need four of these particular steel cards. They're about the size of a credit card. This one is called Impress Seed. They're great people. We met them at the Miami Crypto Experience. I'm not, I don't get nothing from it. They're just awesome. They were
Mm-hmm.
cool guys
Mm-hmm.
and gals. And you stamp your passphrase in here, right? And then you're good, right? But what if you lose this? So you would want actually four of these, okay? You want two of them with the passphrase stamped on them encrypted. So you have encrypted the passphrase. Okay. You make two of them. Then you make two keys to the passphrase. You make two legends that say how to decode the encrypted passphrase. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You take one of the encrypted passphrases and you go put it in a safe deposit box. Okay. You can't just put this in a safe deposit box because all the guy's got to do is take a picture of it and he's got the passphrase. That's why it needs to be encrypted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one goes in the safe deposit box, right? Then one of them goes in like Aunt Mary's Bible that she keeps on the shelf or something. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
someplace nobody's ever gonna find it. Someplace like that. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in your shoebox but you're not gonna lose it either. You're not gonna forget it's there. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So find balance. Then the encrypted ones, the legend, you keep one and then you hide the other one. Maybe it goes in another bank deposit box or something, right? So that is what I believe the most foolproof method to not lose the passphrase and the keys. It does require maybe a $500 or $600 investment in um, uh, metal hardware, but to protect a multi-million-dollar portfolio, I think that's a small price to pay.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that. Somebody actually asked in the chat, uh, people want to have unincorporated entities to own cryptocurrency. Have you seen that? And what would your comments be on utilizing an unincorporated entity to actually own crypto?
So people do it in all different ways. People are growing, organizations grow as portfolios grow, right?
Hmm?
So we've got LLCs, we've got sole proprietorships, we've got corporations, all in, crypto investors. If you've made $3 million in NFTs, a corporation might be a better form for you to protect those assets and minimize the tax burden as you move forward, right? Because you're going to keep investing, you're holding inventory in NFTs of, maybe several $1 million. There's a lot of kind of moving parts. So having that having that set up and having that structure is often going to be beneficial.
Okay. Uh,
If your portfolio is still growing and you're kind of working on it, but maybe you've got good ideas, maybe you're an artist. So if you're an artist and you've got the ability to turn your art into NFTs, then maybe you want to make sure that you've got a plan moving forward. So you start off with an LLC, maybe go into an S corp later, and once the numbers get big enough, this is the words I usually phrase, is a phrase I usually use. Once the numbers get big enough, go into a corporation. So you're the entity type can grow as the organization grows.
that's a great way to put it. A lot of people don't think of that way. They're like, "Oh, if I start out this way, I have to always be this way." That's not how it happens, ladies and gentlemen. The business grows. So and actually leads into the next question is, uh, what are the is it best to do crypto activities in a business or in a personal or what cases should they use the corporation or the personal in either scenario? So if you talk about what's best to do personally or what's the best do business wise, could you talk about that, especially in the crypto space? Which one's more apt? What activities are best? Because we could talk about the mining. A lot of people think it's just a coin. People don't talk about the mining. People don't talk about the nodes. People don't talk about these different things outside of the sphere. But people that want to look into it and they're open to looking at the technology, looking at investing, what the question obviously is, what activities should they be looking at? Should they be looking at nodes or with the LLC, or should they be looking at mining with the LLC, or should they just be like, okay, I'm gonna just do this in my personal name. It's not a big deal for now. I'm just gonna start it and get going, and it really doesn't matter. What would you say to that?
So it does matter, but always just start. A friend of mine, he wrote a book. His name is Chris Komotos. He's over at Block Spaces Tampa, so that's a big part of the Florida Blockchain Business Council. But he's got a book that it's called Start Ugly, right? And
Always
it's
start.
just about like just go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we kind of can get information paralysis, and we keep looking and learning, and we get stuck. I always people who are brand new, the first thing I tell them is go to Coinbase and spend, whatever you feel comfortable just getting your feet in. If it's $50, if it's $100, whatever it is, just buy some, right? Because as soon as you got a little skin in the game, you're going to continue to get interested, right?
Right.
But it doesn't stop there. Just like you said, there's a number of ways that people are finding success in the digital asset industry, right? Uh, and that should lead what type of entity you're doing, right? So let's think about the different things you could be doing. You could be running nodes. A lot of people aren't hip to that, but the node is the next layer of blockchain, of Bitcoin miners, right? So Bitcoin runs on what's called a proof of work network, proof of work protocol, rather, in which a a computer is solving a cryptographic mathematical puzzle. To nerd out on you real quick, it's like if you're trying to solve a math puzzle backwards, like x plus y equals 8, right? If I told you 2 plus 2, you can tell me 4. If I tell you 3 plus x equals 5, you can tell me 3 plus 2 equals 5, right? But if I tell you x plus y equals 8, the possibilities start to multiply, and now you're in a multivariable calculus very quickly, right? Um, so that's what these Bitcoin miners are doing. They're solving a puzzle backwards. Nodes work a little bit differently, and they're a little bit less labor and less energy intensive. So that's one of the reasons why people are moving towards node validators. Uh, but that's another opportunity that I'm really, really excited about in the space, is the opportunity to operate nodes. Because as long as digital assets exist, there will need to be nodes. So it's, to me, I liken it to building the brick builders, right? If we think of the digital asset industry as uh, the city of the future, it's going to have hotels, it's going to have skyscrapers, it's going to have, all that awesome stuff, casinos, everything. But right now, we're building the roads, we're building the sewers, we're building the street lights.
Yeah.
And really, to be honest with you, I think that's exciting because I'm a boring accountant and I think that opportunities to make money forever are really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always tell people like if as long as you're okay with being what's called an early adopter. I mean, it's a EM. It's been that way for a while, but as long as people are comfortable with that, I mean, it's not a super mature market, and anybody to think that it's a mature market, they're why would you want it to be mature? You want it to be still early where you can get rich, and make out like a fat cat like no one's ever made out before. So I don't see why anybody would want it to be overly mature right now. I think it's very still very young in its infancy. Even with the speed of technology just growing every single day, it's like, well, remember, they're putting the infrastructure in place right now, and who knows how long that's going to take. I mean, obviously, we would love for that to be, overnight, quote unquote. But this goes into bandwidth. This goes into a lot of development. This industry is forcing other industries to develop in and of itself. So, I mean,
That's a
obviously,
great point. That's
yeah.
an absolutely critical point because when we think about that, that's so huge. What you said is that blockchain is moving other industries. So, one of the industries that it's moving is solar, right?
Mm,
More solar is being produced because are a lot of people getting rich quickly in digital assets.
mhm.
And that's a thing, right? It happened with the internet craze, and that happens. More exciting to me, I'm a conservative type of fella, I guess, a little bit, um, is hitting base hits, right? So to use a baseball analogy, right? So you can hit a home run and you can hit a home run, but if you could hit base hits all the time consistently, that's going to be much more successful than swinging for the fences every time. Your success rate is going to be much better. And while people are making out like a fat cat, there's going to be much more long-term success for people who are interested in channel trading, people who are interested in operating nodes, people are interested in, getting in projects that are consistent and earning those interests. It staking rewards, right? The important part about that is that supports the underlying ecosystem, right?
Right.
And those type of projects are going to allow you to continuously earn income. And I've seen so many clients have success, and I'm really excited about the opportunities for folks to really get involved in understanding how the nuts and bolts and the skeleton of the industry works, so that way they can find ways to benefit as it grows.
Right. Definitely. So, what jurisdictions are best to incorporate in? Does it matter, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it does matter. From I'll approach this kind of from two angles also, because you've got, if you're in the United States, you're a US citizen, depending on the exact type of activity, you've got Wyoming, really friendly for crypto. You've got Texas, which is becoming more and more friendly, as well as uh, Tennessee, Arkansas, a lot of those kind of Midwest places where they have cheap energy. They've got a lot of geothermal there. Um, so those are big places for crypto. Surprisingly, New York is becoming more uh, welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
They started off with the bit license, which was kind of like draconian as far as the digital asset space was
Mm-hmm.
concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to put a bid in. I apparently for Florida. Florida is a great jurisdiction for crypto.
I
They're
was gonna
very
ask you that. Definitely. Okay. Okay. Okay.
absolutely huge here. Miami is, crypto Wall Street. We've got um, always something crypto related going on there.
Right.
The mayor of Tampa was at the Tampa Bay Bitcoin Summit. So a lot of support from the community in the different cities in Florida as well as in the government. So there's definitely a few jurisdictions. California would be more friendly if their taxes weren't so high. People don't want to pay 50% in tax out there. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
um, that's the biggest kind of pet peeve with California is the just the tax rate. But I don't see that really going anywhere.
Exactly. So you would think that the place where the technological revolution is kind of started to a degree would be more favorable, but they never have been really. Most of these companies are not set up in that jurisdiction, anyways. They're just headquartered there.
Yeah,
So
it's a
we'll
game, cat and
exactly
mouse.
we'll leave that there. Could you explain what the legal classification of the type of income this income is called in the States? I heard you say it before, but I just still think it bears the burden of repeating. So could you explain the legal classification of the type of income that this income is?
Yeah, so the there's a couple different kinds of income you can produce in the digital asset space. So if you buy and sell cryptocurrencies and you're simply trading, on your own account, simplest straightforward scenario, you go to Coinbase, you buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. Uh, that's going to be ordinary income, right? Short-term capital gains, ordinary income rates, really simple treatment. Okay. If you buy, hold for more than a year and sell, now you're into long-term rates. There's a little bit more interesting treatment there. You're going to get some preferable tax treatment from a rate perspective. If your income is less than $80,000 for a married couple and you've got some long-term capital gains, you might want to think about pulling them out because you might come out at 0%. Obviously, there's a little bit of analysis that has to happen there, but it could come out and happen that way. I've seen that happen for quite a few folks. Um, you can earn staking rewards. So if you do earn staking rewards, that's going to be just like interest. We're going to report that on line 7, I believe, of the 1040. So that's interest income. You could be a miner. If you were a miner and you earned income in a digital asset, then you would accept that as revenue. That would be top line revenue uh, to into your firm. So the classification is highly dependent on the intent of the taxpayer and the type of activity. And that's, a large part of kind of what we help people structure, right? So we want to find ways to create a structure that's going to be most advantageous.
And it's just so important. I mean, I meeting you at the conference, it was, it was the icing on the cake because everybody says they like making money. But it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. And if you
Well
don't
said.
have the people such as yourself that can explain something so simple as the minors get taxed differently, or the income is reported differently, it encourages growth because the education now is pushed that okay, we know this isn't now, one's considered ordinary income and one's considered interest income. Those are two different things. It's important to look at those things because it may change a person's perspective on how they even engage with the space to develop the space as an early adopter. So I always appreciate, you even breaking down something so simple, because there's so many people that want to get into space. Everybody wants to get into space, but
Yeah.
how many people are getting educated? And obviously, the information is so small and it's moving so fast that you kind of have to be consistently investing in your education to actually find it out because something that you just said, it just may not ring a bell to most people, or even most accountants. Most accountants may even have an issue with reporting because they don't understand something as simple as what you said in the way in which they're just going to have to report the income. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that they don't have that competency, or they just rather not touch it, and things of that nature, as opposed to coming to someone such as yourself and having those peer discussions about how to properly apply, the reporting rules to those specific assets and the reporting of those incomes and things of that nature. So definitely appreciate you there. Uh, All right, well, we got to do those questions. If anybody has any questions in the chat, feel free to type in questions live into the chat. But David, I want you, because we were just talking and really having a really good conversation about these NFTs,
Oh yeah.
and I just want you to obviously have experience in the space, talk about, uh, just the definition of it, and just the definition of it and
Yeah.
how it's beneficial and what you see in it and things of that nature.
So NFTs are huge. It's been such a like learning process with the NFTs. Um, so let's take a step back. I like to give you the full meal deal. So what is a cryptocurrency? A cryptocurrency on the Ethereum network, right, is an ERC20 token, right? Any just like any dollar, any ERC20 token is the same as any other one. If I give you $1, it's just the same as I give you any other dollar. If I give you a $20 bill, it's the same as every other $20 bill. You don't care as long as you get your money, right? So that is a fungible item. Okay, that is a fungible item. A $20 bill, every 20 is the same as every other 20. But if I give you a piece of art, it is a non-fungible item because maybe it's a one of, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only one of. That's what it means to be a non-fungible item.
Mm.
All of them are not the same. Each one is unique. So an NFT is an ERC 721 token. A fungible token like Ethereum is an ERC 20 token. A non fungible token is an ERC 721 token, right? There's one more variety. Most people haven't heard of these yet. These are semi fungible. They're a hybrid of both. They're ERC 1155 tokens. Little beyond the scope of the discussion, let's focus on the NFTs, the ERC 721s, non fungible tokens. They started off as ugly looking JPEGs, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they've come a long way, right? So these ugly looking JPEGs are uniquely identifiable digital items that can be connected to smart contracts, which can be streams of payments. When we think about that, the very next thing you think of is a bond. It's a uniquely identifiable item that can be connected to a stream of payments. That sounds a whole lot like the definition of a bond.
Mm-hmm.
So when NFTs grow up, and the country of France just completed a bond issuance in as an NFT,
Mm-hmm.
they have the ability to displace the bond market. The bond market is the largest market in the world, bar none, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happens when NFTs grow up. So what are they doing now though? Right now, there's some that are ugly looking JPEGs. There's some that are fine art. People have created the technology to digitize fine art. And then they have the digital copy of that art, right? Well, what good does that do you, right? Maybe you want your physical copy in a museum. And in order to evidence the ownership, you have the NFT in your wallet. So that way, there is never any question about who owns the art. It is evidenced on the blockchain, and you have the evidence in the form of the NFT, which is uniquely identifiable and trackable back to the physical item. So now we're talking about tokenization of real assets. Okay. So the tokenization of real assets can be very simple. Well, simply explained, rather. Let's say I have an apartment building and there's 100 units in this apartment building. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say the building cost $100,000. I raise the $100,000 and issue an NFT on the building, and there's 100 of them, right? I give those 100 NFTs to those investors, and then the payments, the rents that we collect, are connected to that NFT and payable to the owner of the NFT to their digital asset wallet. I'm not telling you this is not pie in the sky. There's 3 companies doing it already.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I understand the concept. I don't think that these concepts are necessarily new. I just think that I mean, obviously, in the way in which they're going about creating disintermediation in the environment for sure. But nevertheless, I think that you know, obviously, investors want their money.
Yeah.
So if investors want their money, this technology, like you say, the ledgering, can allow people to not necessarily, I don't like that term, cut out the middleman, but it allows them to go what they call direct to consumer type mentality. So, if you're the investor, you can actually touch and feel your investment. You can see the numbers, like you say, you can see, okay, this is what's going on. You're in a lot more position of control. Which when we talk about transparency in the asset distribution ledger, to shareholders or investors, you can see that obviously a lot more clearer in the tokenization of the asset because it's ledgered in what would be considered a transparent manner, which is obviously the blockchain that's displaying the crypto and things of that nature, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And so that's really important. I really do appreciate you explaining that, and I think that like you say, obviously that's going to grow with just tokenization of assets, and even when people talk about in real estate, I think that's going to be one of the. It obviously is not just going to be. It is a major play because a lot of stuff is obviously real property, physical property, things of that nature. You can see obviously a lot of tokenization of property, but I think that it's definitely going to be utilized a lot more even commercially than what people are discussing now, as opposed to just doing residential and trying to collect data and do things of that nature residentially with the technology. I think is going to be a lot more of I don't want to call it data mining, but like you even talked about, just giving the investors a lot more opportunity to have their hands right there with the quote unquote fund managers, with the asset managers themselves. I
Hmm.
think that's a really big thing to kind of get rid of some of the middlemen and the red tape. And oh, he's sitting in some office, 30 stories up in the building. I think it does give the investors a lot more opportunity to be right there direct with the actual fund managers, the creators of these assets, the managers of these assets, and they're the actual beneficiary of that asset. So, um, yeah, definitely appreciate you sharing that. We got a question here. Why would someone set this up in the private sector, then go with it? If you mention we go into LLC, so prop, but there's so much more. I think, having David, come on the show today, it really helps out because the audience that we have at the vault is coming at it from a perspective of being in trust, being private. They want to invest in different jurisdictions and do that privately and things of that nature, and they want to gain that obviously from the crypto perspective. My whole thing is like you say, with the reporting, Coinbase is going to give up the information anyways. These companies are looking to go public anyways. So for anyone to doubt that these organizations are not going to release the information of who's really going through their websites, and really it's more of they're going to play it as a security measure, as we got to do this so bad things don't happen. Because if bad things happen and then they go back, you can just see what happens in the marketplace. But people actually lose, and they could have prevented it. But we'll see how that goes. Um, Obviously you've seen worst case scenarios, things of that nature. But I definitely we appreciate you coming on, David, and sharing. About what you all do over at DKS, is it tax advising? I really appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I'd love for you to give out your information so you can share that with people on this episode
Absolutely.
on how to actually get in contact with you about this crypto and accounting services. A lot of people at our that listen to our the vault, we really push talking to accountants. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are want to get on your calendar, want to talk to you about their crypto holdings, want to talk about their crypto reporting. So, feel free to share, your calendar. I know how you move with your calendar, just leading with the calendar, allow people to book a time, move forward from there. And to see if
Yeah.
there's synergy. I don't want anyone, even in the audience, to feel like we're pushing you all on David or David's pushing themselves on you. We really wanted to do the interview because we've yet to meet a lot of accountants in this space, and David obviously provides a higher level of education, even hearing his background, working for the companies that he's worked with already. He's sharing with you all that he's not taking this as the get rich quick, the lottery mentality of, hey,
No.
we've seen millionaires get wiped out. I'm pretty sure David's seen millionaires get wiped out in this crypto stuff
Yes.
so far. You were rich overnight, and it doesn't matter that you lost your key. You didn't save the money properly. You didn't reinvest the money properly. That those things matter too.
Yep.
Everybody wants to talk about making money, but how much are you able to really live off and grow your life off? So having people like David in your corner, if you're looking to do crypto, you gotta have a stable of accounts. You gotta have a good group of people, and David's one of many that's making it itself a point to be in this space and say, look, I'm not talking about traditional accounting. I'm not talking about doing that for a business. I'm talking about doing it for this ledgering system, which to a degree, it is kind of a revolutionary in the respect that you almost want to say it doesn't eliminate your job, David. I mean, when you're able to do accounting or ledgering through a system that's a lot more transparent, what purpose do you have even in that marketplace as an accountant? Could you talk about that as well when you give out your information? What purpose do you have in that space? Because this is a digital ledgering. Now everybody can see it. There is no need for this sophisticated accounting standard. Is that not true, or is that true? What would you say to that?
So I'll give you a joke I learned from the first accountant I ever worked for, right? His name was Sean Eichner. And he said that whenever they have the Tax Simplification Act, it's always good for the accountants because they're only going to make it more complex, right?
Ah,
When we talk about a lot of accountants who don't want to learn crypto, that is the case. It's kind of sad to see, but there's a steep learning curve. There's a steep learning curve. I've invested a lot of energy and time and effort into becoming an advisor. And so my staff is absolutely amazing. I've taken in a lot of information over the years, and they kind of have to drink from a fire hose when they listen to me as far as just what we're going to do and the next steps in planning the work that we do here, because we quite literally are on the cutting edge of accountancy. And so the job of the blockchain accountant is to understand how to report complex information. I am a traditionally trained accountant. I've got the CPA license. I've spent my 10,000 hours to master my craft and all that jazz. So I hold that badge very highly from a CPA's perspective. So what I like to say is that I am a traditionally trained CPA, and in addition to that, I am a digital asset specialist, right?
mhm.
And this industry is growing so rapidly. And if people want, to get in touch with me, the easiest way is to go to www.dks-tax.com. That's our website. You can learn about our firm, the folks we have working with us. We also speak Spanish here. Luisa Foyan, our tax manager, she speaks Spanish, a native of the DR. So we love that here.
Mhm.
We work with people all over the world, and it's absolutely a pleasure. Not hard to find. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on at our website, www.dks-tax.com. Um, Find me on Instagram, DKSCPA. Yeah, not hard to find. If people want to reach out, we can talk about it, figure out how I can best be of assistance, but definitely not going obsolete. Blockchain accountants are going to be advising people for the next 20 years because there's so much to learn. It's constantly changing, and providing people with the information that they need to make good decisions is never going out of style. Our slogan here at DKS Tax and Consulting is when you know better, you do better. And we believe that. And so that's what we try to do, provide our clients with the best information so that they can make the best decisions.
Yeah, David, definitely. We could sit here all day and talk about this stuff. Obviously, being an innovator yourself, being a pioneer yourself, you always, literally, we're on the cutting edge. We're talking about something that's literally growing while we're talking. It's not old, it's not archaic. So always appreciate the conversation with you, David. Really do appreciate you taking the time out your schedule to really educate a community of people, a group of people that want to be early adopters, want to be investors. We've seen people make the money and lose the money, but we
Yeah.
also know this is still the beginning, baby, of a large boom actually. And so we are going to see some people become very ultra rich off of this.
Yes.
And, David obviously having them as a client is obviously a plus. Them coming over here dealing with us, just as far as listening and getting educated from this particular podcast, is really, really important to have that available because they have to be educated on the asset base and the industry itself before they just start going in and making haphazard decisions, trying to ride the bandwagon or something like that. But actually then, as much as you're helping build the infrastructure, you're a part of their investing infrastructure when it comes to crypto, particularly, which is very, very important. So we do appreciate you for taking your time out of your schedule. Obviously, there's not a lot of people out there like you, and
Thank
it's
you
always
very
good
much.
to meet people like you that are not just an accountant. Anybody can be an accountant, not to say it, that
Right.
that crassly, but in the respect of now saying, hey, I'm not just an accountant. I'm actually going to go into this blockchain. I'm going to go into crypto. I'm going to go into an innovative area that it actually is bigger than what most people can just fathom.
Huge.
It's just, yeah, it's huge. It's kind of hard to explain it to somebody that's just not familiar with the terms,
Yeah.
because the terms obviously will shorten the learning curve of what we're talking about here. But definitely encourage people to go to the website dks-tax.com. Feel free to
I'm gonna
reach out.
flood your I'm gonna flood your inbox too, Christian, because Christian can get in touch with me as well. Pretty quickly, we're going to be coming up towards the end of the year. So if you do want to get involved, make sure you get in touch with me before the end of the year. Come January, we won't be accepting any more clients. Um, so if you do want to get in touch, you reach out through Christian. You'll always be able to get in touch with me from a getting involved perspective.
Yeah.
But definitely before the end of the year is going to be best.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that just shows you the speed of how fast the industry is growing. How someone of David's caliber can get booked up rather quickly. Even having him speak at the conference. I mean, there were people in the room that were from other countries, and they need help. And who do you think they're going to go to? They're going to go to the people that are providing the education, the support. That people need on that investing journey, on that trading and journey, on that entrepreneur investing journey, all the way through, and as well just looking at their retirement journey. Some people just maybe want to make a couple dollars, in their retirement, and having someone that is not just an accountant but actually invested in the space themselves is obviously a big deal. So we appreciate David for tuning in, for coming on, and appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. You all obviously can reach out to his organization, by reaching out to DKS dash tax .com, and that's obviously going to be a plus for you all to reach out and work with him, and not just pick his brain but actually work with him. We're really big on that, but at the same time working on, like David says, the relationship. So we
Yeah,
appreciate the relationship starting out here. Obviously we're going to bring you on for some more interviews because as the
absolutely.
industry evolves, it's going to be important to talk to someone that is still in the space, and that's important. It's not just, oh, I'm an accountant. It's, I'm in the space, and I'm learning about I'm learning about the legislation that's being passed. Those small things are going to be small catalysts and things of that nature for international investors, not just domestic investors in the states. And like I say, we have people that are invested even internationally. So having people invested internationally is just going to be a huge plus. Now that they know that they can find someone boots on the ground in the United States that actually has a company in the United States that serves international clients, and that's really, really big because most people can't just, hey, let me go to the white pages and Google a crypto account. It's a little, and without that relationship, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're gonna get it without that relationship. It's very important that if they don't make it to that conference, to have outlets like this that can just say, well, hey, here's his hand sticking up a little bit higher out of the accountant pool. Yeah, he's an accountant, but a little bit higher now. He provides a higher level of accounting because if this space is a legitimate space, they have to have accountants. And so it's just always appreciated to see that you are able to provide that level of support. And I'm looking forward to sharing this episode with tons of people that we come in contact with that are in the crypto space that are saying they're making money. And hey, you got to deal with this accounting. So
And I'm
we
going to
look,
give you one more thing for your audience here. If
okay.
anybody reaches out from this podcast here, what we will do, we're going to be producing our year-end review report, right? So what we do at the end of the year is we look back. and we say, what has the industry done over the last year? We attend all the conferences, we talk to all the people, we do all the research, we know about all the services. We look back, our staff, we sit down, we have a meeting, 2 or 3 meetings actually to create the report, and we look at what's happened. And that's going to give us a snapshot at the end of the year. So if somebody reaches out here, we're going to make sure they get a copy of that report just so that they can get some context here. So that way we make sure we provide some value to your audience, Christian, because we appreciate you as well.
Oh,
Thank you for
definitely.
having me, and looking forward to talking again.
Thank you so much, David. You all, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Alrighty.